Today is not a special day. Today is like one of a kind day. That with me I have Rubén Blades. That I never thought I would say this in my life. If I try to repeat this would not come. It's just really exciting. But Rubén, I want to start this episode saying that this quote that you told me about Gabriel Garcia Marquez, que es, eres el desconocido más popular que conozco. Which is, you are the most unknown.
You're the most popular unknown I've ever met.
And I felt like in Gabo's mindset that when he thought of you, he's like, okay, this is the best way to describe Rubén Blades. And that's when I kind of thought of you and I said, okay, what he really meant to say is that you are like the perfect example of a Renaissance person, which is something that society does not teach you, does not inspire, does not try to open your mind to be like that person that is really good at so many things. Es decir, I was even looking what Renaissance means in Spanish because I didn't even know. And it means polímato. Polímato, that's what it means. And the fact that you have managed to live so many lives in one.
Polifacético, yeah.
Polifacético es la palabra. It's like I even have to look up the word in Spanish because I've never heard it in Spanish. And that's the life of Miguel Angelo, you know? It's like
what happened basically is to explain that you have to, again, first of all, what he meant was that some people, I remember when he said that to me, I was on the phone. He called me on the phone. We were talking on the phone and I hadn't spoken with him in a while. And he was passing through in Kennedy, because they didn't let him come into New York for nonsense. That in those days he wasn't a list of people who couldn't travel to New York because of his background, political background. So he would call friends from the airport. So he called me, and I even though I don't like to talk on the phone, it was very nice. It was Gao, and it's, hey. And he said, tú eres el desconocido más popular que yo conozco. And then I went over and got a pen and I wrote it down because I thought that was so clever. And then he said, I said, why do you say that? And he said, because some people, I talk about you and I say, okay, Rubén Blades. I said, oh, they know the name, but they never seen your face. They don't know what you look like. Or they know that you're a musician, but they don't know that you wrote Pedro Navaja. Or they know the song Pedro Navaja, but they don't know who wrote it. Or they know that the Pedro Navaja guy is a singer, but they don't know you're an actor. Or they know you're an actor, but they don't know you're a singer. And they know you're a singer, but they don't know you're a lawyer. And then and it's all these things they kind of know, but they don't know. They know your name, but they don't know your face. They know your face, but they don't know your name, but they know something about it. So that's
but they
why
heard your name, but they don't know who you are.
No, they know your name, but they don't know why. And I said, that's why you're el desconocido más popular que yo conozco. You're the most popular unknown I've ever met. And I thought that was very fun. But I also told him, I said, it's a wonderful thing to be that way.
Yeah.
Because
it's a luxury.
Yes, it is, because it allows you certain freedom to live your life.
To express yeah. and to be the best version of yourself whenever you want to be. When I heard that, I thought of you and I'm like, that's the best way in Gabo terms way to describe you. But what he really tried to say is that you are the definition of a Renaissance person. Somebody that is good, not just good, is an expert in different things. And I wanted to start with this because I feel that society doesn't support this mindset. It doesn't support to be open to things. And you did it, I don't know whether it was consciously or subconsciously or somebody show you the way I wanted to start with this because I feel like in the world that we're living today, being a Renaissance, it's like, it's the equivalent of like Da Vinci, right? Like he was a painter, he was an architect. But I think your music and your life, it's a product of that. Like
Yeah.
when you know, when you write your story, I listen to parts of it, and it's like you're somebody that really has no limits. And
Thank you.
it comes from somebody that says, you just because you come from here, we live here, doesn't mean that you cannot do that. And I
Right.
feel like society puts so much in us that says you can't, and then you start believing it. You know how
It's
great that
like
you
a
have that, right?
it's also, yes, it's also a tribal kind of thing, they teach everybody to be like that. So if somebody breaks away from that, it's sort of a treason in a way. That's why some people can't deal with somebody else's success,
Right,
because then they have to ask themselves, well, how come it didn't happen to me?
right.
And that's why I always tell people, especially young people, is that, make your decisions. And I have this thing called decisiones. Right? You see it?
Sí, claro. Cada día alguien pierde. Wow.
Make your decisions early and make them wisely, because they are going to have an effect on you later on. When you're my age, at my age, I still continue to do things and look for things. And there are a lot of things I'm interested. I probably won't have the time to examine them all, like archaeology or paleontology or other things that I'm interested in. But I've done a lot of the things I set myself to try to do. And when you're at my age, it's not the time when you're going to decide which way you're going to go, because it's more of a time to settle things and start, trying to communicate what you've learned to others to make their lives better. But it's you make your decisions early on. So, and time is very fragile. The fragility of time is something that we must always remember exists. It's not as if like, oh, it's guaranteed,
Right.
and it will be interrupted or unbroken. It doesn't work that way. So you have to make your decisions, because they will make them early and wisely, because they will have an effect on you. Even if you don't make decisions, you will be affected by that as well.
Do you know that back then when you were young? Is this
Yes.
something you figure out now, or you knew then?
Because I was around my grandmother a lot, and she was older.
Right.
I mean, I remember, and I told it in a documentary, when they asked me, the day that we saw a burial, un cortejo fúnebre, there was people going to the cemetery, and I asked my grandmother, what is that? And she explained to me the concept of death. I had no idea.
Wow.
We were going to the movies. I mean, I was like, never even thought that people died. I didn't know what that meant.
Wow.
And she explained it to me in her way, because she believed in reincarnation and whatnot. So she thought we went to a different plane, in a different dimension. I didn't understand most of it, but what got clear to me was that you were gone at some point. Your physical self departed. Right. And that was news to me. And I went like, oh, so we're not here forever. Okay. And then it dawned, I said, so that means one day you're going to die, Grandma? Which was alarming to me not to have her. And she looked at me straight in the eye and she said, yes, one day I'm going to die. And so will you. So it's not as if like, I'm going and you stay.
Well, you were going too. So hurry up and figure it out.
And then we went to the movies. I mean, that's the way it is, to see Donald Duck and see second. That's the environment that I had. And she didn't abuse me or she didn't break my dreams or anything. She knew I was a kid, and she gave me the things that kids like.
She was honest.
But she also gave me the education that I wish more people would receive.
Yes.
From an early age, as opposed to people talking to their children like,
right.
And not telling things that because they can't handle it.
Yeah. No, your grandma is like, well, I'll die, and so are you.
And my mother was also, an example of work. My mother was born in Regla in Cuba. She was like really a professional, and taught me that as well.
Yeah.
And my father taught me how to keep my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
to respect people,
Yes.
and to understand my limitations as far as my actions, that they would have an effect on other people,
Mm.
and how to never brag, always share. And so I had a great family at the beginning of my life. I had really good people
Yeah.
forming and working me and
Yeah.
bringing out the best I could have. I'm very, very blessed because of that. And that I was born in Panama at a time when those things were possible.
Mm.
I lived in a country, in a city where everybody knew everybody else.
That's so amazing. Yes.
You know what I mean? It
Is it
was
like that now? Is it like that
no,
now?
no. I don't think so. Not the way it was,
Okay.
because the city has grown.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
many more people.
we had our first million people in Panama in 1960.
Wow.
So in 1953, in the city of Panama, I'm talking 1 million in the
In
country.
the country.
In the
Oh,
country in
wow.
1960.
Wow.
So in the city of Panama in 1953, you could bump the same person
Yeah. Yes. Oh,
when you
yeah.
walk pretty often,
Very
until finally
often.
you ask, hey, what's your name, man?
Yeah,
I'm bumping
yeah.
you all the
So
time.
you're so and so's daughter and so and so's
That's how we were
everyone is
known.
related.
Yeah, that's how we were known. Tú eres el hijo de Rubén. Tú eres el hijo
Claro.
de Ano.
Then you're so and so's child.
But that
Ruben,
also created something else, Danay. It
¿qué?
created, at a time when shame had not died, public shame had not died. So if we did something, it would reflect on our parents.
Right.
So parents were very careful with children. All parents.
Wow.
In my neighborhood, every mother was watching what I did as much as she was watching what her son did, because she didn't want her son picking up crap from me.
Because it would reflect on her.
Yeah, it would reflect on her son, and then it would reflect on her. El
Right.
hijo de Anolan le enseñó al hijo de Danay, and then the parents would be in the mess, not us. It would be like, it's your fault you're not raising your child. It's like, so nobody wanted that. So everybody was like always looking at everybody else, at son.
Amazing.
So we grew pretty much with like a police, around us.
Security.
We still did things that they never found out we did, and good for our butts that they did. But we were pretty much taken care of.
Yes, you felt protected. Ruben, what has Panama given you that it formed who you are over, like, forever? Like when you come from another country, you always carry something that shaped you. Like for me, it was perspective. Like being born and raised in Cuba, every time I have something perspective, because I was raised with so much perspective. Mm-hmm. What has Panama given you that is with you?
Perspectives, influences. Remember, Panama, like Cuba, has ocean around. Yeah. I mean, I kiddingly say that Panama is like an island on soil. Una isla en tierra firme.
En tierra firme, sí, te entendí.
No, una isla, pero en tierra firme. So we have oceans on Pacific and Atlantic. Cuba has ocean all around it.
Yes.
So when you have that situation, you would think it's isolation in a way, but it becomes, like in the case of Panama and Cuba, because we were port cities.
Yes.
You have influences coming from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And so we grew up exposed to ideas, to different points of view, different people, different races, different religions. So because I was born in Panama, I was exposed to all of that. Also, uh, the fact that, like I said before, we had a very small population allowed us to develop more of a sense of community, which helped create a better environment for your feelings and your sense of solidarity. In Panama, I never saw people in the street begging for money.
Mm.
I never saw people picking food from the trash can.
It's true.
I always saw people sharing things. You know, you shared your things, the things that you had. People worked. There was a hope. I mean, I was born in a great country that had all of these elements, and provided me with the perspective also, and also it was a country of immigrants. And so everybody came from somebody else. I mean, if you analyze my family, everybody came from somebody else.
Oh, that's
So my
true.
background also, that immigrant background, I think that was so prevalent. We had people from the West Indies who came to build the canal. We had Chinese that came to build the railroad. We had people Spaniards who came also to help with the canal. You know, we had people we had more than 8 different indigenous groups in Panama.
Mm.
So we had we had North Americans there. We had French.
Wow.
So we had the black from the West Indies. And so it was like a melting pot,
So nice.
literally. And because of Panama being a place of transit during the gold rush in California, it was easier to come from New York through Panama, go to the Pacific, and then the Atlantic, and from the Atlantic cross to the Pacific in Panama, and then take a boat and go to San Francisco, to California. So everybody went to, even what's the name? Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, even they went through there to go to Bolivia. It's like
That's true.
everybody and their mother went through there. So it was a place of constant movement, of constant ideas, where you were not scared by different races or different opinions. And they showed you that everything was possible. I mean, I remember going with my grandmother every afternoon. When she finished work, she would come over and pick me up, and we would walk down 13th Street in Panama and sit at the end of the road in front, passing the Masonic temple that she was a member of, because my grandmother, she was a Mason, Rosicrucian. Very odd that a woman was Rosicrucian, but she was. Another thing that she did that was. And we would sit in front of the Pacific Ocean, El Mar del Sur, just sit there in the afternoons to take the fresh air and talk. So I don't know if I could have done that in another country.
I don't think
with the same effect. So I'm very grateful to Panama because of that, amongst other things.
Yeah, the perspective is something that you have very, very alive in you in terms of like. So Ruben, talking about perspective, being a Renaissance, being able to sing from like, your music is everywhere, your work is everywhere, your crónicas, they're everywhere. How do you keep the focus when you create characters, people that people sing and feel like your music? It creates a fame, right? If people see you, Rubén Blades, te conocen, te desconocen, pero how do you manage to create this massive world that you created, through music, and still put that aside and keep your path, your perspective? How do you deal with it?
Because I think that the first thing, as far as the creation, I follow the advice that I was given by writers like Carlos Fuente or Gabriel or others, who said, don't write about what you don't know.
Oh.
That's number one. Don't write about what you don't know. Don't sing about what you don't know. You have to have some information. You have to have some connection. And if you're a writer, you have to either be a witness or a protagonist. I'm not going to write about what I don't know. So I was writing about what was around me, things that I saw, things that I was a part of. And the what made it different was that at the time, people, and even to this day, some people consider that music is only art, but music specifically is only purpose is to entertain and to provide a way to escape reality.
Yes, I heard that.
My position was as corruption created less objectivity in terms of news and in terms of opinions. I felt I can use music to inform. I could use music to document reality. People can dance, but at the same time, there's a document there that they can go back to because people learn the songs. They didn't just dance, they learned the lyrics as well.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning, I didn't understand lyrics like coco seco. It's like dry coconut. What do they mean by that? I don't know. And then I said, okay, but I can use a chorus to say something and develop an idea that was first exposed in the song. And the song can be about things that are happening every day that are familiar to us, but perhaps have not been acknowledged and need acknowledgement. So that's as far as creating. I wrote about what was around me and whether it was as a witness or as a protagonist. As far as how did I keep myself from becoming a shithead?
Yes, that's basically the right question.
That was my father who taught me not to brag. He was a national basketball star at one point, my father. So he knew about fame.
He was a musician too.
He was a musician for a very brief time.
I mean,
and he knows how to. Yeah, he was a bongo player. A bongo player from Cuba taught him, Abuelito. I never knew his name. Abuelito taught him, but he played. He played with a lot of people. My father, and at the time, Silvestre Méndez, Chombo Silva, Peruchin. He played with a lot of people, and traveled with a local band, Estrellas del Ritmo, Pinky Arias y su Estrella del Ritmo. And but he told me always, don't brag, don't show up, don't be ostentatious. Observe, keep your mouth shut. He told me never go on top of a stage unless they invite you. And if they invite you, make sure you're going to do right and not do a ridicule up there. So always respect your public. He always kept me clear on that. When I was not famous, he was just saying, this is the way people with character, good people behave. And my grandmother, on the other hand, as well, because she taught me how to feel comfortable with knowledge. So I felt it natural after a while. If you think a certain way for a long time, you become immunized to nonsense. You can recognize nonsense when it comes to you. So no, I don't want that. And you don't have to question about what other people think of your decision. It's like, I don't want that, and period. You assimilate the consequences and you move on. And when you do that through a very important period of your life, as it is growing up, when you become blessed by the opportunity and you have success, then those things kick in. It's like muscle memory.
Yes.
What the most difficult thing for me was not the impact fame had on me, is the impact fame had on my friends and my family. They were the ones who didn't know how to deal with it.
Wow.
Because they know me all my life. They've seen me all my life. I was the guy. I was a friend, a guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I have some money that they don't have. All of a sudden, people recognize me. All of a sudden, some people think I'm the biggest, greatest thing. And it's very difficult because they don't know how to, what I'm thinking, they don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah, they don't separate what you do with who you are, right? Because,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
like
like, oh,
fame.
Ruben is amazing. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what he does is amazing, but you don't know Ruben, no? It's
But
like
I'm saying it's like fame. Fame is a place to visit, not to live in it. You don't live in fame. It's fun. Sometimes it can be fun. The consequences of it you have to manage. But I don't need it to live. I don't need it to exist. I don't need it to feel that I'm somebody. That's already done. That,
yes.
I don't have to go back. Like, you remember the day when, I don't,
Yeah.
if you're a thief and you come to my house, you don't know who lives here. I had my Grammy. Well, I'm not just going to mention what I had. My awards or recognition, I had them in storage, and then I had to take them out. And I remember there was a problem, and I had to take them out. And I brought the Grammys, and I had them in a thing, and then I had to pull them out because they've been there for a while. And then I put them in my office, and I still feel weird about it, but nobody really walks in there. But then the rest of the house, if you walk inside of the house, you don't really see, you don't know who lives there. And that, again, is something that I was taught that way. That my father, don't brag, don't be talking about yourself all the time. And it's funny because some people confuse my opinions, because I am opinionated, and my lack of fear for giving an opinion. They mistake that with arrogance and soberbia. Oh, look at him. Who does he think he is? It's like,
right.
But my friends, and I'm blessed with my friends. The best investment in my life were my friends. That I can have friends, that I have friends, 60 years friendship, 50 years friendship, 40 years friendship. They know me. They know me very well. And it's wonderful to have those witnesses and contributors to my life, because the other third element were my friends. My friends, my friends in Panama, my friends in the music business, they're all
solid, right?
Solid people. You cannot find a friend of mine that you would say, oh, that guy's a thief, that guy is like this. Not one.
Wow.
They're like, my friends are like, and again, we have observed each other for 50 years.
Wow.
So
that's a luxury. That's a
absolutely.
luxury. I'm
so blessed.
That is amazing.
You don't know. Oh, I can go to them, and people that you can let come into your life, into your house without any concern that somehow they rape you or disrespect you or steal from you, or it's like, they're my friends. I mean, and they're excellent people, and I'm very lucky to have them in my life. And we all work for it, though. We all invest in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Ruben, how do you keep your creativity so intact? Tu creatividad. Like, for example, what you created 20, 30 years ago, it feels like you could have written that today. Like, I know, like, if I go to Cuba, I know a Pedro Navaja right now. Like, that's unbelievable. Like, they're everywhere, right? But how do you today, after creating so much, keep that so sharp? Like, because artists, for the amount of time that have been, they become repetitive, or they just run out of passion, or I really don't know what happens, but it's such a luxury to have someone that today has a Panamanian band and every year comes up with some new way to innovate with music. Like, how do you keep that? I know you need help with like your musicians, but it's your mind projecting. How do you keep that alive?
I think that the reason is curiosity. I think you really become old and irrelevant. You become irrelevant not because of your age, You become irrelevant when you have no curiosity for what's around you. There's a moment when you just give up. If you give up, and you can give up very young, you don't have to be old to give up.
It's true.
And you feel that you have no interest in what's around you, or not motivated in any way by what's happening around you. That's when you become old and irrelevant. So, and I used to tell this to friends: intellectuals really are intellectuals as long as they are curious.
Mm.
If they're not curious, they're not intellectuals.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, so the fact that I continue to be interested in other things and curious about other things is what keeps me trying things and doing things that maybe some people would think I shouldn't try, because I'm already in an age where I'm supposed to just be walking around going, ¿Cómo está mi hijo? ¿Cómo está mi hijo? Entonces everybody calling me maestro, ¿cómo está? Siéntese aquí, por favor. You know, and it's like, I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm not making fun of it, but I'm saying I'm not there because I'm curious about other things. And the reason the music remains vital is that when some people that are in the business, what they do is they write songs with expiration dates. You know,
Yes.
They write about stuff that is like a chewing gum. You can put it in your mouth, it'll be nice for a while, and then you spit it out, and then you get another chewing gum. That's what a lot of this business has become, or maybe it was always, I don't know. But I wrote about stories that affected life. I wrote about life and created stories that were a reproduction or a reflection of what was going on in life. So when I wrote something that your mother heard,
Mm-hmm.
when you reach your mother's age, when she heard it first, you will find that it's pretty much reflective of what you're going through.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden, you go, oh, okay. So that's why I've had the luxury of recreating audiences,
Mm-hmm.
which whereas other songs and other singers, because of what they sang, they only are remembered as the oldies or
Yes.
with nostalgia concerts and whatnot. But if I sing Decisiones today, a song that was written 39 years ago, you write it, I sing it today, the kids that are listening to the three stories, they identify with it. The same goes with Padre Antonio or El Cantante or Ligia Elena or Pedro Navaja or Plástico, whatever.
Sí, Amor y
Buscando América,
Control.
whatever. So Amor y Control. So, Amor y Control. So what happens is, Patria, when those songs, Maestra Vida, all those songs, El Nacimiento de Ramiro, all those songs talked about events in people's lives. And the next generation rediscovered it because it spoke about the human condition, not about what some record label wanted the person that they have under contract to write, because so and so wrote that,
Mm-hmm.
or because you have somebody who has no talent but looks good, and then they sing whatever is being presented to them, knowing that the song is not going to last. It'll last like 2 weeks or a month,
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, who the hell remembers?
Yeah, it's like a chewing gum. It has no taste,
like
and you have to throw it out.
Yeah, because they have expiration. It's like milk. You get the milk. Instead of having you have the picture of the composer. And it's after a while, if they don't drink the milk, they drink it. They have to throw it away.
Yes.
And then hope for another thing.
Yes. Yeah.
But because I didn't do that, the songs continued and continued.
I never told you this, but I listened to Amori Control when I was little. And I remember in my house, people would dance. And I remember I would sing, the, the,
The
the,
chorus.
the El Coro. Yeah. Because it was so catchy. But then as I grew up, I started listening to the song and then I understood the song in another way. And then now I listen to the whole song and then I remember now looking up on my parents singing the song, how they were singing it back then that I didn't, because I couldn't get it, right? And I, it's weird because it's the same song, but I just grew up and I got to understand and appreciate it like in a full extent that you were intentionally. And I feel like my generation, we're so lucky because we lived that when it came out that it became like the sensation, and then now we're like, oh my god, it's just ageless. And I don't know if you did that on purpose. Was it like?
Well, the whole thing again. I was writing, and it's Amor y Control is an interesting example. My mother had been diagnosed with cancer, and she had cancer of the breast cancer, and she went through a mastectomy, and then she was like 5 years she was okay, and then the cancer came back, and then she couldn't make it. But I wrote the song. I was writing something else. I was writing an album that was going in a different direction. And then my mother then it became obvious she wasn't going to make it. And that affected me very much. So I ended up writing 3 songs that had nothing to do with what I was writing originally, which was a commentary on the 500 years of the so-called discovery of America.
Wow.
And I say so-called because Columbus had no clue where the hell he was. He needed somebody to discover him. He
needed discovery.
Yeah, he had no idea where he was. Calling the people here Indians because he thought he was in India. It's like, yeah, okay. So anyway, whatever. So I'm coming out of the hospital, and the thing is, I wrote the song about my mother because she was the one who originated the reason for me writing the song. But instead of writing about me and my pain and my mother, I wrote about somebody else's problem and pain. In this case, the son who had been involved in some drug problem or something, and the father of that guy, of that kid, was telling him, with his mother next to him and his family next to him, what I was feeling also. Wow. So that's another way of learning of how to project something without having to make it about you. And what I was saying was his problem was my problem. His pain was my pain. The pain of that man was the pain of my father also, and my brothers and my sister and myself with my mother. But instead of singing about me and us and our pain, we sang about somebody else's pain and made the connection. And the chorus that says cuánto control y cuánto amor tiene que haber en una casa, mucho control y mucho amor para enfrentar a la desgracia. How much control you need to have control in your house to face hardships. Yeah. That chorus is a chorus that resonated in 1992.
Yeah.
The same as it resonates 30 years later, because families continue to go through hardship.
It's the same.
We continue to go through limitations, pains. Now with this pandemic, how many people have died.
Yeah.
And
you need a lot of amor y control for life. Esto es algo, this is something that is ageless. There's love and control.
You have to love and you have to have control. So control of your pain, control of your disappointment. You have to, hey, let's go forward. Let love move you forward. Yeah. But because this is not going to be over. This is part of what makes the world what it is. I just had a couple of friends of mine who died. I had one about 3 days ago who died, who was 51, Horacio Valdez, excellent person, not just an excellent musician. He was like me. He was a lawyer. He was a musician. He was a writer. We were very good friends. He saw me somewhat as a model of sorts. And he was the guy who also represented whenever I had a legal situation, I could call Horacio.
Oh.
He had a great sense of humor. I went to his house. He came to my house. I never in a million years I thought Horacio would go before me. No. And he did. He had a stroke. And that's how, like I said before, how fragile life and time
Wow.
is.
Yeah.
So, amor y control, what it says now, it applies to Horacio's two beautiful daughters who are left without her father,
wow.
to all of us who are left without our friend. And the song applies to that as well.
But everything you've written, it doesn't have an expiration date, Ruben. I mean, everything, even though when you create something, it doesn't even have a date that it will be birthed. Like some of your songs, you wrote them and they come out 3 years later. Like they become popular. They don't have like that. There's no predictability.
Amor y Control was sure. Amor y Control was not an immediate hit. People didn't really listen to it. They listened to it like maybe 5 years later. I don't know how it happened. Because the other thing is that one of the reasons why I was able to do all of this is that I went through my life as an actor and as a musician and composer without a manager. If I had had managers, if I had had publicists, if I had had lawyers telling me what to do, I would have not been where I am, because everybody wants you to do what they need you to do,
right,
in order for them also to survive.
Right.
And that, understand that is understandable. They need to eat too. But they also tell you, you know what, don't write that song because that song sounds communist. Or don't write that song because that song is depressing. So I would have been told, no, don't write about people in hospitals dying. Write about, hey, let's dance, baby. Let's,
Oh, wow.
That, write another suavecito. Go there. Don't be. People don't want to hear that. That's what they tell you. So I would have never written Pablo Navaja, Plástico, none of those songs, because I would have had somebody telling me, don't do that, don't do that. I would have never gone to Harvard, leave my music and go to school again. I would have not gone for 5 years to Panama to work in government. I would have not done a lot of the things I've done if I had had managers and people around me. And the funny part, Danay, is that some people think that everything that has happened with me has been like a master plan.
Doesn't look like a master plan to me. That looks too complicated.
Maybe from God. Maybe it was God's plan. Okay. Maybe. But it wasn't a master plan from this side. I made people probably feel more anxious and go through more anger than I can imagine every single time I did something that I was not supposed to do.
Wow.
Okay. So the fact that it is now, some people think like it's so easy for me now to say, okay, you know what, do this and you will get here. It's like,
oh, wow.
I can't recommend you to do what I did because I don't know how it worked, other than I believed it. I believed it would. I was certain it would. When Pedro Navaja was done, I was told that song was the worst song ever written, that it was too long, that it would never be a success. And they actually had DJs who begged. Jerry Masucci was the guy who owned the Fania Records company not to put it out.
Oh, wow.
So, so anyway, I think that what made it possible was that I didn't want to become the next Michael Jackson or the next Julio Iglesias or the next big. I wasn't interested in going there. That was not my goal. My goal was to write songs that had to do with what was going around us.
Wow.
And I wasn't expecting an award for it. I wasn't expecting fame for it. I knew in my heart, I was convinced people would support it. I was convinced
That's so
always
impressive.
because I am part of the people. I
Yes.
always felt as part of the people. So I didn't feel like them and me. It's like us. So
Us. Yeah.
I figured if I like it, and if I feel moved by it, it will move you too.
That's so amazing. No many people work like that. No many
Maybe not
people
many
work
people
like
are as
that.
foolish as I am, I guess, at the time, because it's like it was not a popular decision.
Wow.
Even when I recorded Buscando America, the band wasn't sure about, you know, songs like Desaparición, because
Wow.
we were thinking, okay, we won't be able to play this in a club. And everybody's thinking, okay, we're playing music to make a living. We're not playing music to save the world.
Right.
We're playing music so the clubs hire us and we perform.
Right.
In an album of 7 songs, already and we don't know if we're going to be successful. Already one song is about something that we know for a fact the club owners are not going to like.
Wow.
So if you think like that, then you're going to limit yourself immediately. It's like Van Gogh being told, hey, no, don't paint those things. Paint, stay with the flowers. You know
Stay
what I
with the
mean?
flowers.
Stay with the flowers, but also don't make them so weird. Why? What's wrong with you? Don't paint weird flowers. Paint nice flowers.
Look at the Toscana. Come on, Van Gogh. What's wrong with you?
And then Van Gogh will go like and cut his other ear, so he doesn't listen.
He wouldn't want to listen.
Maybe he cut his ear because somebody told him that. I don't know.
We just discovered that.
But anyway, so it takes a while. But I wasn't expecting. I knew in my heart the songs would be received well, but nobody else did.
When
in the industry, nobody else did. Sorry,
which is so weird. Which is like the opposite, right? People in the industry should know what works, but it's usually the other way around.
The industry sells songs like they sell refrigerators and cars.
Yeah.
They really. It's very funny because you got people who don't dance, who don't sing, don't play an instrument, don't do arrangements. They're the ones who decide. And they're the ones who keep the money. It's absurd. Always has been.
It always has been that way, huh?
Yeah. Music, musicians exploited in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Yeah. Maybe in the 80s started changing a bit. But it's amazing, you do your album. Some people ask, hey, Ruben, why are you re-recording stuff that you already recorded? I have to, because the masters are not mine.
Wow.
This is the deal. I record an album for Sony Records or for Elektra or for Fania. I record the album. The company advances me the money to pay for expenses. This is the way it works. Mm-hmm. And then takes the money back from my royalties. So I end up paying for the recording and the costs from my royalties. But then at the end, when the royalties cover all the expenses the record labels incurred in, they keep the record. It's like if I went to a bank and I asked for a loan to buy a house, and after I finish paying the loan, the house is the bank's. The bank owns that. Like no.
What?
It shouldn't be that way.
No.
But that's the way it works. And then they own the masters. So now I'm re-recording stuff. I've been doing that for years so that I can have my own masters.
Wow.
And then I can, rent them or do whatever I want with them. But most importantly, I can leave them to my family.
Wow.
To my son, to my granddaughter, my wife, my friends, whomever I want, my parents. Wow. My brother, sister, whomever. Wow. But that's why I'm re-recording. But that's part of the reality that we had. So, which is one of the reasons also why the labels at the beginning didn't want me to record the things that I was recording. But they never, I have to say, they never interfered. I mean, I never had one of them in the studio with me. I never allowed them. to
Oh,
show their
okay.
faces. I would record the whole thing. I would get the cover made. I would make sure that all the credits were ready. And then I would show up and say, here you go. Here's your album.
Really? Wow. So
Yes,
it's
here's
really
my
your
money.
creation. It's the whole
Totally.
thing.
One time only, somebody tried to sort of say like, well, we have this producer. And I said, no, I don't, I don't want anybody from your label involved.
Wow. Your
And I don't
creation.
want anybody in my studio. So I recorded whatever I wanted. This is the other thing I did. I paid for it out of my pocket, because if I left the,
Oh.
the if I left the record labels, they would not pay right the musicians. They
Mm.
would not pay right the arrangers. They would not pay right the record label, the cover art,
Right. Right.
and then their checks would come in, God knows when. So
Oh,
what I would do is I would pay for everybody, because I
yeah.
saved my money, which is the other thing that helped me. I didn't spend my money in cocaine. I
Uh-huh.
didn't spend my money in things that I did not need,
Yeah.
like homes I couldn't afford, or a plane, or a boat, or stuff that I didn't need.
That comes from your
So
dad. Like, again,
yes,
don't brag.
and I come from a family where I saw the debts really were very hard to deal with in my family. So I learned saying, I'm not going to have debts. I don't want debts, not money. I don't want debts like that. So I
Mhm.
was always working within a budget, and I still do. But I paid to everybody, make sure that they got what they deserved, what they earned. And then I would go and get my money from these people. But they never touched, not once, since Buscando America, since Electra. I
Wow.
always paid, and never had anybody in there.
That's incredible. You know, Ruben, when I think of your music, if we before putting, it's funny that it all comes from you. When you read your song, like imagine like not listening to it, you read them. It talks about real people, and
Mhm.
that is really a reflection of who you are and how you think and how you project yourself. And then if you don't think of you as a musician, you're like, oh yeah, this guy works in the government. He must be like a social worker. He must be somebody that works with the people.
Mhm.
So that is not listening to the song because the songs are catchy. Like that's just reading what you do, right? And
Mhm.
then yes, you do work for the with the people. You actually spent 5 years in Panama working
Mhm.
with those issues that you write about. Like
Right.
you
What
it,
happens?
it's
What
like a
happens is,
mix, right? It's like a
what
it's
happens
all
is,
connected, even though it looks like it's not.
yes. But what happened basically with my case is like, when I started writing about what was going around me in the popular sphere, the people, the people who were struggling,
Right.
I became famous and I became wealthy. And then there was a
Right.
contradiction, because all of a sudden I write about Pablo Pueblo,
Uh-huh.
who's like, caught in this dead end job that he doesn't know what to do with his family. And all of a sudden I had choices Pablo Pueblo doesn't have, but that
So
were earned because of my song. So there was like a contradiction there. And it's almost like I was using that to make myself in a better position, and that was not the plan. So I said, okay, how can I? The real change for Pablo Pueblo is not just a song that denounces the difficulties and the injustices applied to the everyday person in Latin America by corrupt governments. The
right.
way that we're going to change this is either through revolutions, armed revolution,
Hmm.
or we're going to change this through the democratic process, political process. So I chose the political process. And
Oh
that's when I
wow.
went and I said, I'm going to create a political party and I'm going to go
Oh.
and work for. I wasn't thinking about me being candidate. I didn't want to be the candidate. But the problem is that once the whole thing started, people would not accept somebody else. I mean, it had to be me. And if I didn't run, then the party would not have had life. It would have not
Oh.
existed. It needed a certain amount of votes. So
Right.
anyway, but that's one of the reasons why I went and worked politically. I went to the trenches, as it were. From my position of fame and whatnot, I went
Yeah.
in. And then
Yeah.
later on, when I went back for 5 years now to work in a government of one of the political parties in Panama that I feel are part of the problem, but that was the opportunity that I had to work in government, not just be complaining and writing and bitching about it, but saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to assume my responsibility and see what it is like from the
Right.
inside. So I
Right.
went and I spent
That's
5 years there, and I was making money before. I was
mhm.
making like $1.5 million a year, and I
Wow.
I did 5 years. I didn't make millions of dollars. It doesn't matter. I went over and I worked for my country. And what did that do for me? First, I not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. I went in there.
Mhm.
Okay, I assumed responsibility. They said I didn't do shit. I was terrible. You get accused of everything, insulted. Nothing is good. Okay, I went through all of that for 5 years. The second thing is that, oh, he'll never leave his his fame, and he'll never leave his position and his money to come here. I did that.
Yeah.
Third, they say everybody who goes into politics goes in here to steal. I didn't steal a dime.
Mhm.
Four, oh, he'll never last. I almost wanted to quit, like I cannot tell you how many times, but I stayed. I
Yeah.
stayed. Yeah, because I can't stand stupidity.
Mhm.
And I had to. And the first thing you lose when you go into public office is common sense. Once you get in there,
Wow.
it's like instead of bureaucracy, it's bureaucracy. Most incredible thing that you find. So,
Wow.
and finally, what is best than to serve your country? What is best? I mean, every morning I get up and I watch my ugly face and I look at myself and I said, you've done mistakes. You've done things that you should be ashamed, and I am ashamed of. But you serve your country. You did what the songs are about.
You really
I said,
everything is blended.
yeah. So
It
I
makes
said, I
sense.
said to myself, okay, I'm proud of that service, public service, and no one, although they had tried, no one can take that away from me.
No.
And
No.
I think of my grandmother, I think of my mother, and I think of my father, I think of my friends, I think of all my teachers that I had. Ana G. de Rio, Ise Tejera, Eva Ramos, Dorico Parropa, I was a kid, Mrs. Thomas. And, I remember all of them, all my friends in the neighborhoods, all of them. And
All
I
their
go,
moms.
all their moms, gang, everybody who was around. And I go, yeah, you know what? I tried to do right. And it gives me such a peace.
I'm sure. Because you live with
Yeah.
honesty.
Well, I tried, we all, if you see a baby that is really ugly, you don't go and say, Coño, what an ugly child you have. You know,
No, no.
we every day, we're not completely honest every day because
Mhm.
society actually demands that we're not.
Yes.
It creates problems sometimes. Everybody wants the truth, but not everybody can handle it.
Yeah.
So sometimes but in the most important things, you should be honest,
Mhm.
especially things that have to do with yourself, who you are. You cannot lie to yourself. You cannot and should not.
Wow.
Tell yourself the truth, and then you'll be able to be a better person.
Mhm.
Don't try to bullshit yourself because it's never going to work.
Yeah. Ruben, from here forward with all your experience, where are you taking all that? Like, where are you heading? I know you have a new music coming out. You have so much going on. What excites you now? Where is your curiosity at the
I
moment?
think I'd like to try in the future to teach. That's what I'm thinking about now in the future, but not like a formal sort of setting. I've been working here in NYU
Oh,
with students. I did that a couple of, last 2 years. This year it's been a disaster with the pandemic. I'm still working with a couple of them, but more more like a sort of informal informal gatherings like this, or to go to a place and say, okay, we're going to have this class. And the class has no curriculum necessarily,
Oh,
no format other than questions and answers. And it would be about students asking questions about concerns that they have, about experiences and things that can help them make better decisions. I'm
right.
thinking about that. I'm also thinking a lot about archaeology.
You mentioned
I'm
that.
really looking forward to that. Yeah, because they're finding a lot of new settlements now with the with the changes of weather.
Hmm.
Where in some areas the receding oceans, receding waters are just making things. There's new findings,
Hmm.
and there are areas that are very very interesting to me in places like Chile and
Uh-huh.
Peru, where they're finding the presence of humans that predates the Clovis arrival, which they've always placed it like 11,500 years. The first Americans who got here, the first people who came to the Americas.
Oh,
It's really a lot more older than that. And now they found like I think it was in, I don't mean, I have it all written. I don't know. I think it was in Chile or in Peru, places where they've been, there's proof of human presence in 13,500 years ago,
really?
14,000 years. Yeah, which then brings about my position, which I used to argue with some people from the Smithsonian in Panama, that I think that everybody always says that the first Americans came through the Bering Strait.
Uh-huh.
They were chasing a mammoth, and then, oh, here we are.
Yes,
It's
yes,
like
I hear that.
I always thought, okay, maybe that was one way, but
Right.
I've always thought that it made more sense for cabotage, to go through the coast
Yeah,
in a
traveling,
boat. It's less
immigration.
dangerous,
Yeah.
and also near the coast, you can always go hunt and then come back into the boat and continue that. But there are also simultaneous migrations coming from the south, the the
Mm.
the, the east and the west, which would explain why in places in South America you would have a presence of 14,000 years.
Right.
The guy from Clovis didn't just walk
Right.
all the way
Yes.
down there. I mean, this is older. This
Wow.
is older than that one. So they either walk from down up or they came
Right.
from somewhere else. So that kind of thing. In Panama, archaeology is also like one of those occupations that you'll starve.
Oh, really? It's not
Oh
that.
yeah, I think Panama right now, archaeologists. I mean, mothers now would say like to a kid, "Hey, play basketball, but don't be an archaeologist."
Oh, no way. Really? Oh,
Because
wow.
there's money in it. But the government also doesn't support that. We have a long way to go in terms of a support for culture in general. And I hope it'll change. I trust it will. But
Mm.
anyway, archaeology in Panama, it's in infancy. I like
Wow.
to find out more about certain places like Sitio Conte, where they
Wow.
found such beautiful gold work, one of the
Wow.
best gold work in the Americas.
Wow.
Pre-colonial gold work was in Panama.
Really?
Yes, in a provincia de Coclé, in a place called Sitio Conte. I was in
Wow.
New York watching an exhibit of gold, or orfebrería,
Uh-huh.
you know,
See.
filigrane work. I mean, really delicate stuff in the Museum of Natural History,
Yes.
because they stole all the pieces from Panama and from Peru and whatnot. They all were stolen, and
They
then
disappeared.
yeah, and
Take
all of
it.
a sudden now they appear like in the collection of this museum or that museum. So, but I went over and they had a very very nice and wide array of exhibits from Peru,
Hmm.
from Inca and Maya and
Wow.
Aztec cultures. And there were some that I was looking, I'm saying, like, this is really great. This, oh my God. And when I looked really close, it was from Panama.
Wow.
And I went like, what? It was better than the other examples. And I was stunned. So it made me want to know a little bit more about it. So that's something that you're thinking about me in the future. I mean, when I'm not like killing zombies or singing, probably that's one
I mean,
direction
now
that
you
I'll
kill
take.
zombie and you sing, and you're right. Like that's a
Hey,
combination that is like very unusual, you know.
good thing. God bless those zombies.
God bless the zombies.
Most of the
Yes.
zombies you and me would be God knows where right now. We'd be in the corner going like, decisiones, muchas gracias. And we'll have, thank you very much.
I know the zombies. You know, actually, this is the first time I see you all cleaned up. You're always like full of like scars
You
and.
know, I want to take a haircut. I want to shave. I can't. I don't dare to do that because I don't know. Where we're gonna be matching up now that we return. I mean,
No, you can't
you
do
know what I
that.
mean? No,
Yeah, I want to cut my
I
hair and
try
I
to look.
can't do nothing.
No, I try to look presentable. If I stay standing up in a corner too long, people start throwing me money.
Yeah, they're gonna start throwing you like quarters. Like, hey, sorry, pandemic happened. Like that's yeah. I mean, now you're like
Where's
killing
your
zombies and
Ruben something? I know your
ruin so.
face. I don't know where I've seen you, but here, brother.
Oh my God, Ruben, you know, it's really admire your curiosity. It sounds simple to be curious, but it's really difficult to keep it alive, you know, to keep it to be curious about many things at the same time, you know, people, music, archaeology, history. And I think, you know, when we think of life, you know, if you like a steak, it's like, you know, it's like Cuban food, right? You can have a steak, right? Like if you can buy a piece of ground beef, but really what makes the ground beef is everything you put in it, you know,
Uh,
like olives and tomato paste, you know, and then how you complement that piece of meat. It's like salad, tostones, you know, it's like that's life. Life is it's not just a piece of meat. It's like everything you complement it, you know, what and then the glass of wine or the glass of whatever, like is an experience. And I feel like your life it's definitely been an experience. It's a feast.
Absolutely.
It's not just
And,
a piece of meat or like just a
and
glass of wine. It's the experience, right?
and I still feel there's room for more. The only
Yeah.
thing I
There's
the
where's
only
the
thing
dessert now?
yeah, the only thing
And the
the only
el digestivo, ¿cómo se dice? El
el,
limoncello.
el
Yeah.
digestive, the aperitif. The only thing I know is that there comes a time in your life where you recognize you have more past than future,
Mhm.
and then you have a certain amount of time that even that you have no assurances. Like I saw what happened to my friend
And
Horacio Valdez just 2 days ago, 51, strong guy, talented, everything looking, everything, and then boom, all of a sudden, because that's the way it is. So the only thing I regret is not having the surety of having the opportunity as far as time to do all the stuff that I would like to try. But again, I understand. I cannot. First of all, I'm not going to complain, or I'm not going to. I've done enough
yeah,
for me to say, my God, I've had a lot of
blessing.
fun, but I also done things that I find will help others.
Yeah.
So yeah. So but I wish I had. Oh, I wish I could say, okay, like when you're 30 or you're 40, you gotta go. Okay, when I'm 50, I'm gonna do this, and you
Yeah,
know,
no.
in my case, you go like, well, when I'm 90, it's like,
Well, your
uh,
dad is in his
when I'm 90, I'm gonna
90s.
freaking gonna be sitting down. Is what I'm gonna be doing.
Well, your dad is 90 and he's still like around
Yeah.
pretty
Well,
much
let me
okay. I
tell
mean,
you. I mean, the
it's pretty
time
impressive.
flies.
Yeah.
When was the last time I saw you and my
No.
dear Joaquin?
I know. It's been like a month or something. Like
Yeah, but
it's
it go. After we
it.
went through that Austin
Oh my
blizzard with
God,
all my
the
God,
ice. That
the
was
snow and all the stuff, and that
yeah.
wonderful meal we had.
Yes, yeah, but that meal that when and to be honest, Ruben, when you make that meal that is not just about the beef, what makes it the life exciting or what really takes time is cutting the preparation, you
Sure.
know? Because the meat is already there, but cutting the onions really well, cutting the garlic really well, putting the right thing. Because once you put everything together, it's just like it's done. and your life is like, that preparation, like the curiosity is the onions, like the mix of what you are. It's like when you sit down, you're like, okay, this is the best meal I've ever had. Like this is what makes it, exciting. Then you have the music and the wine and the company. Like, who are you like having a meal with? Like, are you going to have a good friend? Are you going to have a good conversation so you can enjoy? So your life is that, and that's how I wanted to kind of. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's like you're living a feast, and you now into archaeology.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah,
that's a very nice way to put it.
Yeah, you want to try things not raw. You want to have spices. That's what makes a steak a good steak. Otherwise, it just will be something you can get anywhere. Like it doesn't matter. That what makes it interesting and to some extent expensive is all the work you put into it to cook it, and who are you going to share it with? That's number two. That's eventually life.
Absolutely.
Like.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
That's
so I mean, I'm sorry I had to put it into food, but with you, I enjoy food so much with you.
Food would die.
Food is so essential. It's like that's the only way everybody will understand this kind of like what your life is, and watching you, that feast and having the luxury to work with you and to know you, and to have that, the experiences and laugh has been so, and being here, I was so like, oh my gosh, can I ask Ruben about a podcast? But because I know everywhere you go, it's like
I have to ask you to invite me.
I know. Hey, Danay, we're like in full costume of like The Walking Dead. Oh, and by the way, for everybody out there, Rubén Blades tiene ojos verdes. He has green eyes. Oh, I don't know. They turn green when I don't know what. Maybe Salazar is the one that has green eyes. I mean, three people text me afterward. Danay, you're right. Ruben has green eyes. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm not very serious because it's a very funny story that I discovered that in the middle of a scene.
You have to, before you go.
Yes.
You have to introduce the audience.
Joaquin.
To my friend Joaquin.
Yes, I should.
I know it'll be messy.
It will be very messy.
But but he saw me. He recognized me.
Of course. You're like.
Yeah, but the cat, Lily doesn't recognize me at all. What? You told Lily, and she's like,
really?
Joaquin, immediately, as soon as he heard my voice and I did this thing, he started jumping.
Yeah, but you mean Lily the cat? Like when you go back home, she takes a bed for you to.
No. When I'm home, I'm home. But when she sees me on the phone.
Oh, really?
And she does not recognize. She doesn't make the connection. Joaquin made it right away.
He
right away. I said, "What?
Yeah, no. It's the best. Yeah, but I don't know how he has that. But you had a dog before.
Seen that. Well, I've seen one dog that.
You know how to handle dogs. You have a good chemistry with dogs. So people they're afraid of them.
I have this picture of him. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it?
Yeah, I see it. Perfect. Yes. Aquí está tu sobrino canino. This is a true story. I pick up Ruben, and Ruben loves to get his newspaper. So obviously we have to stop by Whole Foods. So Joaquin is there. The moment Ruben gets out, just to get the newspaper, it's the first time Joaquin starts like crying, like, scratching the window. And I was like, what is happening? And that has never happened before, ever. This just never happened. He's coming now.
That dog, that little dog gave me so much joy and probably added years to my life.
Yeah, it's so great.
I love him.
Wiki. This is
you.
This is like an introduction walking the first time in the podcast. Is so great. Well, that's how they communicate.
So beautiful.
Ruben, thank you so much for being part. I mean, this has been the best. This has been such a gift, and not just that. It's like I feel like people are getting to know you from a different angle. Like who you are, what you do, how you do it, and how you have managed to continue to navigate this life that now is very chaotic, right? And how to adapt to what's coming, and to always have in mind that there's no master plan. There's no such a little destiny painted that you put together and decided, I'm going to follow this path. It just doesn't work that way. It's very reassuring to me,
You should have said something that is very important. And I personally will close this wonderful opportunity you have given me by saying that, destinies are not inherited. Destinies are made. And that's very important to remember that. Destinies are made. They're not inherited. So always keep that in mind.
Gracias, Ruben. Thank you so much. You are just
Gracias a ti,
the best.